Week 6 is here. Let's talk starts and sits. And welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono. And again, I'm solo here without my host, Chris. But I will be bringing you all the news and notes along with the starts and sits that we're recommending for your Week 6 matchups. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification, ring that bell, give us the follow, and share our page with everybody in your leagues, your family, your friends. We're here to give you the latest and greatest up-to-date news so that you could win your fantasy leagues and walk home with that trophy from your championship. Let's jump into the news here. So a couple quick late-minute news things just happened. In fact, right before I started recording this. So I had to regather my notes, but Michael Pittman is going to miss some time, multiple weeks, sources are saying, due to a back injury. He could be an IR candidate. That's huge news, especially for people who have picked up Josh Downs off waivers recently, and who, for the likes of people who may have listened to me about Adonai Mitchell, as you would say, and picking him up. So these guys are now going to be worthy candidates. Now, again, this all hinges on, and you'll see in my start and sit column for this game, is Anthony Richardson going to be throwing the ball or not? Or is it Joe Flacco? Because if it's Joe Flacco, these wide receivers have value and they have a punch in this league for your fantasy teams, especially with bye weeks. But if not, then at the end of the day, I don't know how much I love any other receivers on this offense until Anthony Richardson could show me a little bit more. But that's huge news for Pittman owners. Another big injury news update, Nico Collins placed on the IR, so he will miss at least 4 games for this team. So due to the hamstring injury that he suffered on that big touchdown catch, it seemed like it was mild and they were taking it precautionary, but it seems to be a little bit more considering that it is a 4-week plus injury for him right now. On positive injury news, the Eagles wide receivers did practice today in full, so it looks like they are going to be set to suit up for the first time together in quite some weeks, coming off the bye week. And the Eagles this week are against the Cleveland Browns. I think this is going to be a matchup that they can flourish. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is going to be a week of rest, big-time rest, going to be healthy. I think this Eagles team is going to bulldoze the Browns. And on other news, some players that are going to be starting in the game for the first time this season, we have Aiden O'Connell going to be heading up the Raiders this week, and they are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't love it. Don't love the game, period, but don't love it. But hopefully that brings a spark they need. For those who are Brock Bowers owners, you're going to be wanting to tune into this game and see how Aiden O'Connell treats him because obviously Gardner Minshew loved to toss it his way. Let's hope O'Connell's in the same position. And then Spencer Rattler is going to be the pass thrower over in the New Orleans Saints. I like this news, actually. I think this is new. In the preseason, he had a pretty good couple games. He's willing to sling the ball around, get his throws where he needs to. I think this is still good news for Olave and Shaheed owners and for Kamara owners. I'd be a little bit more worried, although they did move the field down with the backup that came in after Carr got hurt. But Carr is going to be missed multiple weeks with an oblique injury. Could be 2, could be 3. It doesn't seem like they're ready to put him on IR, so I don't think it's going to be more than that. Otherwise, they would put him on IR considering the 4-week game hold. But that's your news and notes. Let's jump into the starts and sits, starting with the Thursday night game matchup. 49ers at the Seahawks. I like Purdy here, and I like Geno. I like the quarterbacks. One thing about this game that I'm kind of looking into, you've got a 49.5 over-under, so one of the higher points of the slate. You only have 2 games this week that are at over 50 points. This is the next highest along with the Cardinals and Packers game. San Francisco's got the 3.5-point favorite here. I just think both teams came off bad losses. You got Niners losing to the Cardinals. You got Seahawks losing to the Giants. Seahawks at home. Cardinals at home, or Niners at home. Both take losses. This is in Seattle. It's a tough place to play. It's a loud place to play. Both teams have a chip on their shoulder. I think you're going to see them coming out swinging early and often, and it be less of this slow-paced possession game on a Thursday night. These teams want to get a win, and they want to walk out of Thursday on a long week of rest with a victory under the belt. So I like Kittle. I like the receivers in San Fran. I like JSN. I like DK. Both running backs, Walker and Mason, since they're both in the passing game. I'm looking to probably sit the two defenses here. I just think both defenses have an opportunity to give up a bunch of points here. They've struggled as of late, and the offensive, we know, have power that can actually do something on this field. So that's what I'm thinking here. Let me know otherwise. For all these starts and sits, leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I should be starting somebody else? Do you think there should be a player that I shouldn't be starting, or you don't recommend to start yourself, and tell me why. But we want to interact with you guys. We pride on being a little smaller channel right now and be able to interact with you with the amount of comments that are coming in. So keep them on coming, and let's move on to our next game. We're going to talk about a team that had a huge offensive bubble burst in the Chicago Bears, and a Jacksonville Jaguars team that looked really good and had a late game drive there headed up by Trevor Lawrence. But this is going to be a tough game for Lawrence. I have him as a sit this week along with Kirk and Davis. It's hard to sit Brian Thomas Jr. because the big playability. But if he doesn't get that big play, what's going to happen here? I'm not sure. I like Bigsby. I like ETN because the Bears have been hurt by the running game here. So if they can establish the run early, it will open up the pass and benefit Trevor Lawrence. On the other side of the ball, Caleb Williams looked really good last week. He looked efficient. He hit the guys open. He didn't try and do too much. So give me a little bit more DJ Moore. Give me some DeAndre Swift, who's looking good 2 weeks in a row. Give me Roschon Johnson, who looks to be the goal line carry guy, even though Swift did get one there. Roschon's been the one punching it in with the 2 touchdowns last week. And I like the Bears' defense here. I think Trevor Lawrence is susceptible to throwing interceptions. This team is susceptible to get stunted on drives. And if they stop the running game here and can't get them going, Jacksonville is shown to have a tough time trying to come from behind in games. So I like this as a Bears victory. Game is set at only 44.5 points, so not a high-scoring affair. With Chicago at 2.5-point favorites, I expect them to cover that. Let's move on to our next game in the Cardinals and Packers. Cardinals coming off a big win here. It's a 49.5-point favorite, same as the 49ers Seahawks. So obviously they like the game here in terms of the scoring affairs, especially with Kyler and Jordan Love. Green Bay's 5-point favorites. I think that's a little disrespect thrown at the Cardinals because it's not like the Packers defense. They're great for fantasy because they're scoring points with interceptions and getting touchdowns and all that, but they are susceptible. We've seen it. We saw it with the Eagles. We've seen it time and time here during the game. They've played some softer matchups too. So I'm looking to see Kyler Murray here. I want Marvin Harrison. I like McBride. I like James Conner here on the Cardinals side of the ball. In terms of the Packers, if you see my sit column shows other Packers receivers outside of Jaden Reed, we saw the team high targets go to Dontavion Wicks last week. We saw him drop a team high last week as well. So I don't have a ton of confidence in him, in his ability. If he's not getting in the end zone, he's proven that he's not going to be a fantasy relevant player unless getting in the end zone 2 weeks in a row because of the drops he's had. Obviously, you have Romeo Doubs coming back, and I think that's going to affect him too because Doubs is going to run probably the most routes on the team. He's a really good blocker for them too in the running game, and he is a good target for Jordan Love. He just hasn't been targeted very often, and maybe this is the squeaky wheel game after getting the 1-game suspension. So, but do I feel confident enough to say start him? No, I don't. So that's why I'm sitting there. I like Tucker Kraft. He's a great relief valve from a pass rush for Jordan Love. He is being targeted in actual routes run too as well. That you got to like. And the whole scope of the tight end group here is so wildly different than the previous years, like we've been talking about, that you got to find the diamonds in the rough, and you got a diamond in Kraft here. And I think he's going to continue on with his good play week after week because he's going to be a reliable set of hands for Jordan Love. Outside of that, obviously Murray and Jordan Love are here, and then Josh Jacobs, just because the Cardinals could get run onto as well. And I think Jacobs is proven to be sort of the bell cow here at least in early downs. I know Emmanuel Wilson has gotten in there, and I know when Marshawn Lloyd was healthy, he was getting in there. But this team's got to win ball games, and your best ball carrier is Josh Jacobs. So moving on to the Colts and the Titans, this is kind of a little bit of an uglier game. And obviously I have Michael Pittman here as a start because I did this graphic prior to the news coming out, but he's no longer a start. That being said, Colts wide receivers are a sit to me if Richardson plays. I just don't feel confident. I know, yes, he hit it hard with Alec Pierce at times earlier for some big games, but Josh Downs may be the only one that I feel confident enough to start out there and knowing that he's going to have some opportunities. But if you remember last year, Downs wasn't flourishing until Gardner Minshew started last year. So if Flacco goes, I will start Josh Downs 100%. I will start Alec Pierce on a flyer too. And I think I would start Adonai Mitchell. He's actually one that I may even start if Richardson plays as a really deep flex play if you're in a deep league, because we talked about it in the waivers this past week. Here's the thing. He was used in a pass play, he was used in a run play, and he was targeted in the passing game. All three facets of the offense he was used in. That's a good sign for a player going into another week, is to build on opportunities like that, because he was able to have a pass for 24 yards. He was able to run the ball for a little bit. He was able to get his receptions where he needed to in critical plays. He was getting targeted. So if Flacco's in there, I'd take a shot on any of the three receivers in terms of Downs, Alec Pierce, and Adonai Mitchell. On the other side of the ball, I do like Calvin Ridley and Hopkins this week. I think they're going to have to throw the ball to keep up with Flacco if he plays. Maybe not if he doesn't play. So I love Tony Pollard. I mean, he's running the ball real well. Even the opportunities that went to Tajay Spears last week, he just didn't do a lot with them. But Tony Pollard was ripping off runs left and right. He looked like Tony Pollard from a couple of years ago. So I would say start Tony Pollard confidently. If you got to start Hopkins, then yeah, that's fine. Ridley is probably the guy I feel most confident in the passing game. And we'll see yet. The news has not come out as of who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Titans, depending upon the shoulder injury for Will Levis. So keep an eye out and an ear to the ground for the news from there, because that could impact these pass catchers. Texans are playing the Patriots this weekend, and boy, oh boy, will I love to play the Texans defense against this Patriots offense. You have a rookie quarterback in Drake May getting this first start in the NFL, and we know how those go a lot of times. It's rare to see a guy come out and throw for multiple touchdowns, hundreds of yards, and have a big game, especially against a tough defense like this. But on top of that, they usually turn the ball over once or twice. So I'm looking for the Texans D to get a couple takeaways here. I don't know Pat's receiver-wise what I like here. Kendrick Bourne is back. He had some opportunities. Obviously, Jalen Polk should have had the touchdown catch had he not had the toe heel rule in effect during that touchdown catch. So he's maybe one that you could take a chance on here. But really, I think as a rookie quarterback, Hunter Henry is going to be a relief valve for him. Ramondre Stevenson will be a relief valve. You could even go out there and say that all the running backs for the Patriots are worth a start. I'm drawing a blank on for some reason on the backup running back here from that used to be a Commander, but I'll get back to him anyway. But in terms of Texans starts, C.J. Stroud, you're starting. With Nico Collins out, you got to think Stephon Diggs is going to start taking on a bigger role here. Now, we know he could run a full route tree. He's done it. Is he going to be playing out the slot and allowing somebody else to come take out the wide position? I don't know. That could be. I think it's Xavier Hutchinson, but I don't know if it's worth taking a shot on that. To me, Diggs is probably going to be the biggest benefactor here, and I also think you're going to see a boost in Tank Dell. I don't have him listed on here, but I think Tank Dell is a startable opportunity as well. Now, Diggs is probably going to get top coverage from the Patriots, so Tank Dell may be a less riskier play to make, but Tank Dell may be the one out wide. They may keep Stephon Diggs in the slot, and he may feast off the slot routes. So that's going to be an interesting play here because the Patriots defense has shut down wide receivers. Gonzalez has given up touchdowns, but they have done it. And it's Antonio Gibson that I was thinking about on the Patriots side. he has shown to be a better yards per carry so far in the short amount of carries he has, and we know that's usually the case for backups on short carries, but he's also done really well through the passing game. So I think he could be a good opportunity for Drake May to check down to on plays that he's in. So he's worth a start in deep, deep leagues as a flex play here, especially with the bye weeks we are having. Speaking of bye weeks, it's Kansas City. It's the LA Rams. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. And drawing a blank on one more here. It'll come to me. The Vikings. Minnesota Vikings. So, in terms of running back play, there's no Aaron Jones. There's no Kareem Hunt in that backfield there. There's no Kyron Williams. So you're going to have to find a replacement running back or replacement flex. And if you're in deep leagues, you may have to throw someone out like Antonio Gibson. Let's talk about the Bucs and the Saints. I just talked about it earlier. I love this picture. If you haven't watched the YouTube video yet for the Undercovers, the Eli Manning narrated show, but Baker Mayfield does an awesome job undercover in his episode as Gus Swayze. He goes with a bunch of fans, super fans for the Tampa Bay Bucs, goes through a full stadium tour, and you get out to where they have to throw the football 30 yards. If they throw it 30, they get a football. If they throw it over, if anybody in the group threw it over 50 or hit the 50-yard line from the end zone, they would get it signed. And he gets up there and he just rips a bomb. And nobody on the team, not even the three teammates that were on the field with him, including the tour guides, knew he was there. They kept it secret to everybody. So it was pretty funny. It's a good watch. But here in this game, I like Alvin Kamara against the Buccaneers. They're going to probably try to lean on him heavily. Again, though, I think Spencer Rattler did a great job in the preseason, and he's going to have a whole week of work here to go against the Bucs, and it's at home, which is a big benefit for him too. I like Shaheed because of the deep threat ability, and honestly, he's got the most separation out of the two between him and Olave. I've seen a lot of these routes run, and Shaheed's getting open quicker and better, and they're moving him around. I think he's going to be a staple as a wide receiver 2 here. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for you in fantasy from here on out. And he could finish with top 20 numbers in terms of wide receivers this year because of his deep threat touchdown ability. We've seen it before in other players' previous seasons. I do like Olave here too as well because, again, maybe the rookie's going to want to lean on the best receiver for this team, and it could be that. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. The air attack has been working against the Saints, and I like it. One thing that hasn't been working has been the ground game against the Saints, and I don't love the splits that I'm seeing between the two running backs. I feel like I love to start either one of them. Now, again, if you have to because of bye weeks, by all means, it's not the worst matchup you could be against, but I don't love it because the Saints are pretty good against the run. And if you're not getting the 27 carries Kareem Hunt had to get 100 yards, then you're not going to get like the output you're getting from either Bucky Irving or Rashad White when they're getting 7 to 10 carries each in a game. Moving on, Browns and Eagles. Not only is Cleveland struggling this season, but they're also now going to Philly, one of the more difficult places in the NFL to go play at, and one of the most ruthless fan bases. So I wouldn't be surprised if Deshaun Watson doesn't make it to the second half here. I think it's time that they bring in Jameis Winston and just let him start slinging the ball around. And if he did, I'd feel a lot more comfortable about the receivers. I don't have the receivers as a sit here. I don't have them as a start here. They're in my limbo period here, but I don't love it. I have the Browns as sits. I did put it underneath Deshaun Watson. I don't love what they're doing with this offense, and the offensive line's not giving Watson time. Watson's running out of the pocket, creating sack opportunities for other teams, and other times he's staying in the pocket and he's just being sacked too as well. If he doesn't have time to throw the ball, they're not going to be able to do anything. The Browns running backs, though, the Eagles are not as good against the run as they would hope they would be. Whether it's Deontay Foreman, who it looks like he popped up as a questionable tag here, or Jerome Ford, who I do like a lot because of his pass catching ability. Though they'd be worth a flyer flex toss in there, but not with a ton of confidence. My confidence lies in Saquon Barkley. I think this is a bounce-back game for Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles wide receivers, both of them being back, gives Jalen Hurts that bounce back. It makes me think Goddard's going to kind of get knocked down a peg here again too, which I don't love for Goddard owners because it's so hard to find a good tight end this year. But you better be starting the Eagles D. If you haven't gotten them, if you're looking for a defense, go pay up for them. This is going to be a great week for them to be playing the Cleveland Browns, who are just giving up sacks left and right and turnovers left and right. Fumbles by Deshaun Watson, interceptions by Deshaun Watson. You name it, he's doing it. Commanders-Ravens. There's my Eckler. The guy that Eckler's playing football like you hoped he would be when you drafted him as a top 3 running back, top 2 running back in last year's draft. He is ripping off a high yards per carry, much better than his counterpart, who is also playing good football, in Brian Robinson. But Eckler just looks better. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have that top gear. Like you see, he gets run down in a lot of plays, but he still has the cut ability. And I still lean on the fact that he had that ankle injury in week 1 of the season last year, missed a couple games, and I think he played through a sprained ankle the whole season. I think it really hurt his cutting abilities and his speed, but he was still doing good things for the Chargers last year. He's doing great things for the Commanders. I like him especially in opportunities with passes out the backfield. He's had 11 catches for, I believe, like 120 yards, 117 yards on the season. So is that right? Yeah, he's 11 for 11, hasn't dropped the pass, and he's been on fire in terms of pass catching. He's had at least 2 catches a game, which is great. If he can get 3 to 4 targets in a game, his yield is going to be better for you there too as well, especially in PPR and half PPR. He's yet to find I want him to find the end zone this week against the Ravens. It's going to be tough, which is why I don't have a sit for Brian Robinson, but I don't love Brian Robinson. If we saw last week in a tougher matchup for running backs against the Browns, Brian Robinson found the end zone twice on the short yardage, but Eckler was able to rip off the runs, which that's why I have no fear about Saquon Barkley. I think he's matchup proof against the Browns, but we'll see another tough rush defense here in the Ravens, and I think Eckler is that small guy. You don't see him behind the line. He makes one little cut. He gets through. He's a different type of running back, and he proved he was almost matchup proof in L.A. So I like Lamar Jackson here. I like Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers. You got to start Jaden Daniels. The guy's electric. This is going to be the toughest matchup so far for him, but he is going to be good. They're going to have a difficult time containing him, which is going to help out the running game too for the Commanders. I like Terry McLaurin. He is definitely the guy that Jaden Daniels is looking to, and he's getting him deep downfield and not just these lower A-dot opportunities. But the other Washington wide receivers, there's nobody I'm starting in confidence here, knowing that there's such a small amount of target share going around, and it's spread so thin between De'Ami Brown and, well, Noah Brown's questionable here, but all these other receivers, Luke McCaffrey, that you got to hit on the one that's going to get in the end zone. And there's other options out there for secondary wide receivers for teams. Like, to me, even Rashad Bateman is a good flyer for this game. If you're looking in a deep, deep league and you need to throw somebody in a flex play, he's probably out there unowned, and we know what he can do down the sideline. He is a deep threat for Lamar Jackson. He is the deep threat for Lamar Jackson right now. He's not a big volume guy. He's going to get you probably 6 targets and probably catch 3 to 4 of the balls, but he could finish with 60 yards and a touchdown for you on a bye week, especially for those who have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Kupp hasn't, and Puka haven't been in, but they're out. And obviously Rashee Rice is out, but any of the guys who picked up Juju, hoping to start Juju, like, these are guys you can pick up and throw in a play that's going to make you win a week on a bye week that are probably going to be droppable afterwards, but wins are wins. I'll take them when you get them. Speaking of the Chargers and Austin Eckler, the Chargers are at the Broncos. This is going to be an ugly game. Not in terms of ugly in a messy, bad game. In terms of fantasy points scored, ugly. I think J.K. Dobbins is a solid start here. He's been a successful running back so far for the team. He's ripped off some big runs. He's a home run hitter for them so far. They're going to want to run the ball there, Greg Roman's offense. They're going to want to establish the run. it's not that Herbert's not great, but I don't love the quarterbacks in this game because both defenses have shown they can get to the quarterback. They can create turnovers, especially the Broncos with Surtain and the pass rush of the Chargers. And it's going to make it very difficult. I, in fact, think both these defenses are viable defenses to start this week. And then the only one that I feel starting in confidence is J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, we've seen Ladd McConkey have a couple good games here and there. Quentin Johnson had some good games, and I'm not saying they don't have opportunities. But again, you've got one of the best cornerbacks in the game on the other side of the ball. And then in terms of the Broncos, you've got a great defensive mind, a pass rush, and an offense in the Chargers that is going to look to have time of possession in their hands and not create a lot of opportunities for Bo Nix to do anything. So, and let's be honest, Bo Nix is still a rookie. We can't just say he's automatically going to be something big. So I like the defenses in this game and J.K. Dobbins. Another game that I don't love, Steelers-Raiders. I'm saying sit the quarterbacks here too as well. You've got Aiden O'Connell, and there's a chance, it hasn't been announced, but Russell Wilson is practicing in full. There's a chance you could see Wilson and O'Connell, two brand new heads of the offenses here that we both know can give up the ball through the air. I like Bowers here. Again, temper the expectations. We got to hope that O'Connell is going to they're going to scheme Bowers hopefully, but hopefully O'Connell is going to get him the ball the way that Minshew has been. Bowers was he had one touchdown last week on 90-something yards. He should have had a second touchdown that was overthrown by Minshew that ended up being a pick six by Surtain, but that would have been huge on a 2-touchdown day. I think this could be a good game for Pickens either way. The Raiders are beatable. We've seen him beat through the air at times. He is the only real big receiver that I think they're going to try and get the ball to. I think this is going to be a tougher day for him, but he's worth a flex play, in my opinion. And then you definitely want to start the Steelers defense here. But I even say start the Raiders defense. Even if it's Justin Fields, he just hasn't shown that he's able to get it done and done that well. We've seen him fumble. We've seen him throw interceptions and almost interceptions. He just doesn't have a good ball out of his hands. He's a great line drive thrower, which doesn't help for big, deep balls to George Pickens. It helps for good back shoulder passes, and acrobatic catches, and doesn't help for screen passes that get tipped at the line because he's not getting enough loft under it. So Russell Wilson could be a boost to this offense, but again, he's also sacked a ton, and we've seen that the past couple of years. Game possibly of the week here with the Lions at the Cowboys. This game here, I'm starting both quarterbacks, having Jared Goff and Dak Prescott at the helm. This could be a bigger shootout, especially with the injuries to the defensive line for the Cowboys. We know that the Lions are very good and hard to run on. So, again, the splits have been in Dowdle's favor here, and I think we're probably going to see a lot less carries for Zeke in this game here, especially because it's going to be a tough game for Dowdle. I'd sit him if you can. I understand if you can't. Some leagues are deeper. Some people playing 14-team leagues. But CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and Jalen Tolbert, 3 pass catchers for the Cowboys, all are going to put up numbers. All are going to be featured in the passing game and are continue to roll with Dak Prescott. And on the other end of the ball, I love St. Brown. Sam Laporta, this could be a breakout game for him here too, especially without Parsons possibly, again, not being able to cover him at different times. But the Lions running backs are the heart of this offense, and we know that. And being able to keep this Cowboys defense tired by switching between these guys, it could be a high-scoring affair. This game is a 52.5 over/under. That and the Baltimore-Washington game are the 2 highest on the slate this week. And the Lions are actually only 3-point favorites. So I think both teams are going to have chances to score a good amount of touchdowns here. In terms of the next game, last game on the day slot here before the primetime games is the Falcons at the Panthers. In my opinion, I think the Falcons are good, and the Panthers with Andy Dalton are also pretty decent. I think this is going to be a bounce-back game for their offense. I think Dalton goes in there. I think he's able to get the ball moving a little bit better against the Falcons. It is in Carolina. I think I'd feel comfortable enough starting Dalton, especially if you have Mahomes or Darnold or any of these guys as your starters. But Deontay Johnson's the only one that I feel comfortable throwing out there. I'm not starting any other Panther besides Chuba Hubbard because the Falcons can be run on, and Chuba has been very good for this offense, which gives you some hope too for the Brooks owners who grabbed him and have him on their IR slot for the future. He could be something big, even though Chris and I still believe they should not let him see the field this year. Don't let him see the field. Make him get healthy for the season. It doesn't hurt you. It can only hurt you if he gets hurt again in the season. And you're not winning the Super Bowl this year, Carolina. Let's be honest. So on the other side of the ball, Kirk Cousins, he is throwing the ball very well, and he's throwing it well to Drake London, Darnell Mooney. I would almost had to sit here for Kyle Pitts. I haven't loved what he's output, but I went back and I looked at his numbers. And in standard scoring leagues, he's been a top 12 tight end, a top 10 tight end. I think he's had like a top 7, a top 10, a top 8, or a top 12 each week. Out of the 3 weeks, he's really shown up. And I'll pull it up here for everybody. But that just made me rethink overall, like, okay, maybe he's not that bad because the scope of the tight end group in the NFL right now is not great. He's the number 8 overall tight end in standard scoring right now. He's had a tight end 4-week, week 1 with only 28 yards and a touchdown. So that tells you how bad the tight end play is. He was a week 10 against Kansas. He was a tight end 10 against Kansas City with just 59 yards. And then he was tight end 7 last week. He had 8 targets, which is huge against Tampa Bay, for only 88 yards, no touchdowns. Those aren't amazing numbers for pass catchers. But guess what? That is what your tight ends are going to give you. So I feel comfortable enough that he can still finish as a top 10 tight end this week. And if he's a top 10 tight end this week, he should be started. Excuse me. I'm still getting over sick, so thanks for bearing with me. Before I jump into the primetime games of the week, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell. Give us get your notifications from us from a day-to-day, week-to-week basis as news drops, as our episodes drop, so you can get the information you need to best your opponents in your fantasy leagues and bring home the trophy. When you bring home that trophy, we want to know. Leave a comment. Tell us. Send us a picture of you with the trophy. This is what we're all about building community here at the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast, where you got a place to go, where you can ask us, and not only us, you can ask the community and get the answers you need for your victories. Sunday night game. The great part about the primetime games this week is they're both played in New York, well, New Jersey, but New York for the Giants and the Jets. But you got the Bengals at the Giants on Sunday night. This game is a 48.5 over-under with Cincinnati's 3.5-point favorites. This is I believe, the 5th highest total, I think, behind the aforementioned ones with the 49ers Seahawks at 49.5, Cards Packers 49.5, Baltimore Washington, and Detroit Dallas at 52.5. This is the next highest at 48.5. So that shows you some confidence Vegas has in the Giants offense, especially with a good chance for Malik Nabers to come out of concussion protocol. He still has to clear the protocol and see an outside neurologist for clearance too. But he was working out on the side today at practice. Let's see if it builds tomorrow and Friday. I think this team is going to need him back to probably beat this team because the other offense is going to be very difficult. So I like Burrow and Daniels in this game. I think Daniels is a great streamer option, as I said earlier in our QB streamer waiver episode. Jamar Chase, you're starting. T. Higgins, you're starting. He's targeted more than Chase. May not be doing as much with it in the yardage category, but that's fine because he's a great opportunity for underneath routes and on the sidelines for Burrow and getting those first downs. You are starting Malik Nabers. I feel confident with Wan'Dale Robinson. I have Slayton in there. Slayton's more of if Malik Nabers does not play, I like Darius Slayton a lot. I like Tracy Jr. with or without Singletary. I think he just looked more explosive than Singletary, so he's going to get his opportunities. That being said, if Singletary does play and all of a sudden Tracy Jr. gets the ball down to the 5 and he gets sniped by Singletary, then it could happen. Who I don't like is Zach Moss this week. He's coming off that ankle from this past week. Whether he's ready to play or he's going to miss some time, we are yet to see coming up to this game. So I love Chase Brown either way, whether he doesn't play or he does play. Brown has been the more explosive running back, chunk yardage running back. He's been the one they've been getting the touchdowns to out the backfield in the passing game as well in the red zone. So he's a good red zone threat. And the Bengals defense, I know we want to see it. I know you see all the other experts out there saying Bengals defense here, Bengals defense there. They've got great matchups coming up here and there. The Giants offense, Daniel Jones has thrown for 2 touchdowns in multiple games this season already. I know it's not a high yardage yield offense, but they look great in the drives, especially the opening drive against the Seahawks, which is a good defense, better than the Bengals. They took it all the way. There should have been a touchdown. In fact, the replay did show that I think Eric Gray did cross the line before he fumbled. But the Giants could move the ball, and I think the play calling from Dayball and the way they're getting it out of their hands, and if Neighbors is playing, it's going to be difficult for the Bengals offense. It could be not as high scoring as the Baltimore game this past week, but you're going to see both teams going back and forth, exchanging blows here and there. So I like this game. I think I would take the over at 48.5 here too as well. And I'd even pick the Giants because it's a 3.5 Cincinnati favorite. I think the Giants, if they lose by 3 in my opinion, but I think there's a chance they can come out and win this one against the Bengals, who are desperate for a win here. And the final Monday night game on the slate is the Bills at the Jets. This one I am not looking forward to watching. It's going to be a good defensive battle. We started off the season last year with it. It was exciting game week 1 until we lost Aaron Rodgers, and then it still was an exciting finish for the Jets to beat them in overtime. So I'm excited to see what we got here in this first matchup between these two teams. I'm starting Josh Allen, even though he's had some poor play as of recent. Hopefully he's not in concussion protocol. I haven't seen anything on that yet, and hopefully he doesn't have the injury designation either. But I'm starting him. And if I am starting him, I feel more confident in Dalton Kincaid this week as a pass catcher. I think he's going to lean on him a little bit more because I'm sitting Keon Coleman against these cornerbacks who are very good. Outside of that, if Curtis Samuel's questionable, we'll see if he can come in and play. And if we don't have Khalil Shakir, we are really scraping the barrel for wide receivers in Buffalo. That, to me, throw Keon Coleman against Reed, who had a fantastic game, or Sauce Gardner if he's healthy to play. Don't love it. But that does make me feel good about James Cook. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. Don't be surprised if Ty Johnson gets a lot of passes too, especially on third downs, and has a good receiving game too. So that's a little sleeper pick here. And then on the Jets side of the ball, you're starting your studs. You start Breece Hall, you start Garrett Wilson. I think at the end of the day, those are the two you can feel confident in right now, especially with the amount of carries that Breece Hall is getting. It's not a ton, and there's not a ton of carries period on this team to go around. And it could be just a big defensive game here. So I do like the Jets defense here, and I even like the Bills defense here. I didn't list them here because they're not strong, heavy starts for me, but I think both have an opportunity to really slow the offensive down. And this could be a game at 40.5. I hate to say it could be an under. It could be a 14-17 game. It could be a 2017 game here and hit the under. And Buffalo are the 2.5-point favorites here. I think I could see Buffalo coming out of it. I know the odds can be in the Jets side for teams that have fired their coach coming into that week. A lot of them do have success. But I don't know if that was the best time to fire Robert Saleh. I don't know if that's going to really spark anything underneath this offense. And it's just going to be in the hands of Aaron Rodgers here. So I don't love this in terms of fantasy value, especially with all the injuries that are going on. That's the starts and sits for the week. Thanks for tuning in. We have our waiver and streamer pickups episode. If you haven't watched that, go ahead, take a look, because there's still some people that are probably sitting out there in your leagues that people are snoozing on that you could go grab and be ready for the weekend. Keep an eye out. If there's any major injury news or anything like that, we'll be sure to get a short out for you guys. And in terms of the weekend, I hope all of you are victorious. I know we can't all be, but I hope you all are. And as always, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.